worked in how would you describe it?
Who has a real interesting theory.
This started with a podcast. Just a man in a studio sitting across from Joe Rogan, calmly saying things that should have been impossible. Bob Lazar didn't shout. He didn't flinch.
Let's give them the bullet points. You used to work at Area 51.
But what he claimed on that 2019 episode of the Joe Rogan Experience sounded like science fiction cracking at the edges of reality. Alien spacecraft, gravity-bending fuel, a place called S4.
Well, we want to be accurate.
Okay.
Area S4.
S4, okay.
It's about 15 miles south of Area 51.
That doesn't show up on any map. At the heart of it all, a mysterious element called 115. The story is wild. But what if even a part of it is true? Let's trace the echoes of that moment. Who is Bob Lazar? Bob Lazar doesn't look like your typical whistleblower. No suit, no dramatic press conference, just a quiet man with a steady voice and a story that refuses to die. He first appeared in 1989 on a Las Vegas news station, face shadowed, calling himself Dennis. What he described was unreal, reverse engineering alien spacecraft near Area 51. Born in Coral Gables, Florida in 1959, Lazar had a passion for machines. He once bolted a jet engine to his Honda and drove it through town. That curiosity, he claims, led to degrees from MIT and Caltech. But here's the problem. There's no official record, no thesis, no alumni listing. MIT says no. Caltech says no. Los Alamos National Laboratory, where he said he worked, calls him a technician, not a physicist. Lazar says it's all been erased, scrubbed after he spoke out. Not everyone buys it, but his story has never changed. Same dates, same places, same description of the crafts. And that's what pulls people in. Because either Bob Lazar is one of the most consistent liars in history, or he's the guy who cracked open a secret too big to hide. The JRE episode breakdown, June 20th, 2019, episode number 1315 of the Joe Rogan Experience. Across from Joe sits Bob Lazar, looking like a man weighed down by something bigger than himself. Filmmaker Jeremy Corbell is there too, hyped and ready, playing hype man to a story that feels like it shouldn't be real. For nearly 3 hours, Lazar lays it out, quiet, measured, oddly calm. He talks about S4, a hidden facility south of Area 51, where he claims he worked on 9 different alien spacecraft. Not theories, actual ships. One in particular stood out. He called it the sport model. Smooth, seamless, metallic. No rivets, no welds. Like it wasn't built, it was grown. He tells Joe it ran on something called Element 115, a small reactor no larger than a basketball, producing gravity waves. No heat, no noise, just impossible movement. The craft could warp space, not fight through it. Joe leans in, captivated. Corbell plays backup, rolling footage, nodding, filling the silence with conviction. Lazar sips water. Headaches, he says. It happens when he talks about the past. It's not just a podcast, it's a moment. One that made millions stop and ask, what if he's right? Element 115. Explained. Element 115, Lazar didn't just mention it. He built his entire story around it. According to him, this wasn't some hypothetical compound. It was real, solid, and the key to alien propulsion. At S4, he says, they had it in hexagonal tiles, faintly glowing, locked in vaults, ready to fuel a reactor that could bend gravity like clay. He explains it like this. Bombard 115 with protons and it becomes element 116, which decays by releasing antimatter. That antimatter hits a target, producing energy, clean, limitless, and silent. The reactor doesn't get hot, it just works. More than that, it creates its own gravity field, allowing the craft to manipulate space itself. In Lazar's version, 115 isn't from Earth. It's stable, it lasts. Scientists did create a version in 2003, Moscovium, but it vanished in milliseconds. Too unstable, too short-lived. Lazar's response? Of course. What we made isn't what he worked with. To believers, his early mention of 115 years before it was discovered feels like proof. To skeptics, it's a lucky guess. Super heavy elements were always on the table. Still, Lazar's version isn't about theory. It's about something he says he saw and touched. Alien tech from S4. The craft Bob Lazar described wasn't just strange, it was unnerving. He says it looked like a 50-foot disc, perfectly smooth, a dull metallic sheen that felt almost organic. No seams, no bolts, just one solid curve. Inside, it was cramped. The seats are too small for humans, walls that curved without corners. He told Rogan, "It looked like it was grown, not built." At the heart of it sat a dome-shaped reactor powered by those element 115 tiles. Lazar says it didn't emit heat or sound, but it bent gravity, literally. It floated, hovered, and darted effortlessly. No engine, no fuel tank, no exhaust. The craft didn't fly. It fell forward by warping the space in front of it. That's why there was no sonic boom, no sound barrier. The air wasn't being pushed. Space itself was shifting. Control, not with buttons, not with sticks. Waveguides, he says, gravitational control systems tuned like an instrument. And one detail still haunts him. He suspects these weren't new. They were found, dug up, possibly ancient. He saw one lift off just once. It didn't roar. It didn't flash. It rose like a ghost and vanished. Now first, like always, be sure to hit the like button down below. It helps us out tremendously with the reach of this video. Thank you. Evidence or just talk? This is where things get messy. For all of Bob Lazar's vivid detail, the evidence is paper thin. He claims he once held element 115, but there's none now. No sample, no photos, nothing physical, just memories and a single old video from 1991. A cloud chamber test showing some strange sparks. Jeremy Corbell says it's proof, but scientists say it's inconclusive at best. Lazar did mention element 115 years before its official discovery. True, but physicists argue it wasn't a secret. Super heavy elements were being predicted for decades. Then there's the 2017 FBI raid on Lazar's company, United Nuclear. Officially, it was about a murder suspect tied to thallium, but for conspiracy theorists, the timing is too perfect. They say it was a sweep for alien material. He also passed a polygraph in 1989, claiming he worked at S4. But polygraphs are a shaky science, easily influenced by nerves, belief, or technique. No reactor, no blueprints, no verifiable proof. Corbell argues that the consistency of Lazar's story is its own kind of evidence. Skeptics say a well-rehearsed lie can hold up for decades. So what's left? A pile of coincidences, or a trail of clues hiding in plain sight? Science versus Lazar. Physicists aren't buying it. Not the gravity waves, not the reactor, not the idea that one element can twist the fabric of space. According to experts like Dr. David Morgan, gravity waves don't come from atoms. They come from collisions of massive objects like black holes. The forces Lazar talks about, strong nuclear interactions, are real, but they work at the tiniest scales, not the cosmic ones. Then there's stability. Lazar insists his version of element 115 was stable, something Earth's labs have never achieved. Moscovium, the real 115, falls apart in less than a second. No time to do anything. No time to power a craft. Lazar says maybe it's an alien isotope. Maybe our science just isn't there yet, but that's speculation. There's no equation, no model, no published paper. His academic record raises more eyebrows. No trace at MIT or Caltech. Not one transcript, just his word. Los Alamos admitted he worked there, but as a technician, not a physicist. He throws around terms like antimatter, space-time, and gravity amplification. But to physicists, it feels like a soup of mismatched buzzwords. Cool idea? Yes. But science demands more than a good story. It demands proof. Area 51 and S4. Area 51 has always been a magnet for secrets. Buried in Nevada's desert, it's where stealth planes were tested under heavy wraps. But Bob Lazar pulled the curtain back further, claiming there's an even more secret facility called S4, hidden near Papoose Lake. According to him, S4 was carved into the hillside, hangars blended into the rock. Inside, alien crafts, strict security, badge access zones. No team knew the full picture, just fragments. Total compartmentalization. Official records stay quiet. The US government only acknowledged Area 51 in 2013. S4 doesn't exist on any public map. Still, Lazar's details sound rehearsed, specific, like someone who's either telling the truth or studied every inch of this myth. In 2019, the Storm Area 51 event turned into a meme-fueled movement. Millions joked about rushing the gates. It fizzled out, but it proved something. The world still believes something is buried out there. Declassified files confirm high-tech aircraft tests, not UFOs. But Lazar's version adds mystery. S4 remains a place no one can find, but everyone wants to believe is real. Other UFO whistleblowers. Lazar isn't the only voice stirring the UFO pot. Others have stepped forward too, each with a strange thread in the same tangled fabric. Philip Corso claimed he funneled Roswell tech into modern industry. Things like lasers, night vision, and fiber optics. Paul Hellyer, Canada's ex-defense minister, said aliens are real and that world leaders know but won't say. Commander David Fravor brought something different. Verified footage of a tic-tac UFO from a Navy jet. No aliens, no Element 115, just movement that defies logic and physics. Billionaire Robert Bigelow spent millions funding UFO research and openly believes extraterrestrials have already been here. These people don't repeat Lazar's story word for word, but they echo the same eerie certainty that something strange is happening. And someone, somewhere, is keeping it hidden. Lazar still stands apart, not just for what he says, but for how detailed and unshaken he remains after all these years. Bob Lazar's story leaves you in a strange place. Not convinced, not dismissive, just curious. He's either the world's most persistent hoaxer or a man who saw something humanity wasn't supposed to. His appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience didn't solve the mystery. It deepened it. Element 115, alien crafts, secret bases. It's all too much, and somehow still not enough. Science shakes its head. Believers nod, and in the silence between proof and fiction, Lazar just sits there, steady, unchanged. Sometimes the biggest question isn't, is it true? It's why hasn't it gone away? Maybe the story itself is the clue.